Hey, Dustin.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is George Lynch.
George Lynch, how you doing?
Calling for the interview.
Okay, I thought we were calling you, but that's
well,
good.
you know, I'm just being proactive.
It's good to have you on the phone today.
Thank you.
First of all, I will introduce you to my co-host, Ton.
Hey there, how you doing?
Who?
Ton, like 2,000 pounds.
Ah. Do you look like what your name implies?
Not exactly. But Dusty actually gave me the nickname. My name is Justin, but it's spelled Juston. So Dusty started calling me Ton for whatever reason all the years back, and it just kind of stuck on air, if you want the real story.
Yeah, that's a good handle.
So there you go.
It's more metal sounding.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah, heavy duty, man. But anyways, we're glad to have you on the line. If you're ready to get started, we'll get going here. Everybody knows you're a ridiculous guitar player. And I guess first...
Define ridiculous.
Ridiculous as in amazing, and you do things that other people wish that they could on the machine.
But you can define ridiculous another way, too.
Well, just now that we're clear that it's ridiculous in a good way. So what inspired you, or what got you started playing guitar? How did it all start?
Well, my dad was a sort of a musicologist, and he was all into stereo systems and things like that, and we had a lot of records and a lot of reel-to-reel tapes around the house, and he'd force us to sit in front of our mono console stereo and listen to all this stuff, and a lot of blues and a lot of jazz and classical music, and so that made an impression on me, and I loved flamenco and classical guitar, so that was my first guitar at 10, and started trying to emulate what these guys were doing. So the first song I learned was Malagueña, and then I discovered rock and roll, of course, and the Beatles came along, and discovered Beatlemania was universal, and it was a pretty cataclysmic event in the world, and that made a huge impression on me. Of course, one of the guys in the band was named George, so I identified with him, and then of course the British invasion came along, and Zeppelin and Cream and Clapton and Hendrix, and that was it. That cemented me in forever, and I just play along with these records, in my bedroom, and just pretending I was a rock star in the band, and I sort of absorbed what these guys were doing, and sort of developed a style of my own, I guess, and just kept evolving from there.
Well, one interesting story that we've read before, you actually auditioned for Ozzy and maybe came in close second to Randy Rhoads. Is that true?
Yeah, but it ain't horseshoes, so second don't count.
Right.
But yeah. It was more complicated than that. I had been up for it 3 times, auditioned 3 times. The most involved I got with him was I was touring with him for a bit, and it lasted about a month, and rehearsed and things like that. But that was in between Brad Gillis and Jakey Lee.
Okay.
Actually, it was when it was the most serious. And and it didn't work out, and it was very sad at the time for me. I was very kind of just heartbroken, and it didn't work out. But in retrospect, it was probably maybe an okay thing, that it didn't, because one thing that was pretty funny was not funny at the time, but was I wasn't making a lot of money, and I was a truck driver, and I had 2 kids, and I lived in an apartment, and of course I played music, in my band every night, Dokken, and we were doing things, and still hadn't hit the big time yet or anything like that. And so to do this Aussie thing, I had to go to Scotland and do all this stuff. So I had to quit my job, and they weren't paying me. And the people that were grooming me for this, I had these handlers, quote unquote, and they said, well, you're going to ask for $2,000 a week. That's kind of the going rate for this kind of gig. And I'm like, oh, wow, that'd be great. And so finally we sat down, we started talking about money, and they offered me $200 a week.
Well,
less than I was making at Gallo Wine, delivering liquor into the projects, to wine.
Wow.
So I worked with them for this month. They never paid me anything. And when Ozzy finally told me, we're at SIR rehearsal facility in Hollywood, and he says, I showed up and thinking we're rehearsing for whatever we were doing. And he says, hey, no, we found somebody else. Jakey Lee was on stage playing. And I was like, really? And that was it. And he just turned around and walked away. It wasn't, I'm sorry, or here's a bucks, you know, and it was probably, you know, you probably got bills at home or anything like that. They didn't care. And I, you know, sort of cried, you know. It was devastating for me. And my wife and I went home, and we had an eviction notice on our apartment, and I had no job, and I had to start over. And, you know, so I really lost respect for those people because, you know, they are very successful and it sort of treat people. And I'm not just saying this from my standpoint, because I know other people that have worked in their camp. Jakey Lee, for instance, you know, I talked to him about this a lot. And not just Ozzy, but I mean, other people in this industry and probably every industry. It's, you know, there's a lot of heartless people out there, you know, that really care about nobody but themselves. And it was it made me think about things, you know, and I thought to myself, I never want to end up being that person, you know. And, you know, I got back on my feet, obviously, and everything's fine, but, you know, it was kind of enlightening and illuminating a way about how, you know, how there are different kinds of people in this world. And I thought to myself, I'm never going to work with those kinds of people, you know. I'm just going to surround myself with my friends, people I can trust, and people I like and I enjoy playing with. And if it's successful, it's successful, but it'll be successful anyways because I'll be enjoying myself, and we'll be making good, you know, we're making good music.
Right.
That's what happened with KXM. And how about that for a segue? Yeah,
I know you got a brand new project coming out. You seem to have a lot of projects over the years. What can we expect from this KXM?
Well, it was not a, you know, it wasn't a project that where, you know, we sat down and thought about what we were going to do. It was very kind of a shoot from the hip kind of thing. So we had a little bit of time. Basically, we had 10 days. We had no songs. We never really wrote anything. We just met at the recording studio where we basically just lived for 10 days and slept and worked. And we wanted to see what would happen. And we all went in kind of thinking Ray plays in Korn, Doug Pinnick is the singer and bass player from King's X, and we set up all our gear and we started jamming, and we mic'd everything up and just started writing songs, you know. It came out of these jam sessions, and that's the record. And it was done very, very quickly. It was like, I like to say that if you blinked, you missed it because it happened so fast. But it was beautiful because, you know, when you throw yourself out there in a situation like that where you're not, you know, you don't give yourself any chance to fail. You just kind of leave everything to fate, and you work really hard, you focus. And it could have went sideways, and it could have badly, I guess. I don't know. But the chemistry was beautiful. It really worked wonderfully. And we just kind of were observers at the same time, even though we were inside of it. We're sort of outside of ourselves, you know. We kind of step back and go, wow, look what's happening here. This is beautiful, you know. And we ended up having this wonderful record that's getting, you know, recognized and people really enjoy. So it was an ideal situation.
So yeah, it seems like maybe on paper that might be an odd pairing with those other two guys, but it sounds like everything meshed well together.
I like odd. Odd's good. It just fit like a glove. I can tell you that what was so interesting about the chemistry of the band is that, you know, I'm just the guitar player, you know, and I'm the co-writer. And there was no egos at all. And that was so refreshing, you know, because we didn't care who came up with the ideas, and nobody's the boss. And another beautiful thing about it was there's only 3 guys in the band. So if you vote on something, which invariably comes up, you know, which arrangement do you like better? Do you like this idea? What are we going to do for the video? What outfits are we going to wear? Or whatever, you know. You never have a stalemate. It's always 2 against 1. So, and we're all big enough guys to where we're just like, you know, sometimes you got to lay down and roll over and just like, okay. Because we're very opinionated about what we're doing. So that just happened. We were shooting a video. We just we shot a video for Rescue Me, the first single, a couple of months ago, and then we just shot 2 more videos last week for the next 2 singles, Gunfight and Faith is a Room. And I had a very strong opinion about the video and the arrangement of the song, which edit we're going to use. And Doug had the opposite opinion. But, you know, we're both mature enough and giving enough to sort of, you know, meet in the middle or go the other way. But it was interesting to watch that develop because I thought, oh, man, are we going to have our first band fight? That'd be cool. But it never happened.
Well, so do you guys have a tour coming up then with this new album?
We're trying to carve out 2 chunks of time this year to get out there and do short tours. One is in Japan, one will be in the States, possibly one in June and one in the fall. And because we don't have that much time to really go out there and cover everywhere. You know, we have to be doing limited touring. What we plan on doing is filming it for DVD and putting that out there so people can experience KXM live if they can't see a show.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds awesome. We're looking forward to that for sure. Do you mind if we ask you a couple of questions from maybe a Dokken area and that sort of thing?
Sure.
Well, obviously you guys were on the road touring with some huge bands. You know, you were with the Monsters of Rock tour and playing with Priest. And do you have any kind of favorite road story? I mean, because that was obviously a crazy time in metal.
Well, I've got a lot of road stories. I mean, you know, geez. I mean, I don't know what I can talk about on the air, but absolutely. I mean, geez, let me think. Let me pick one here. Let's see. There was the time I busted. Well, you know, back in the day, we would wear, you know, stretchy pants and all that kind of stuff. So there was a show we were doing. It was outdoors, and I can't remember what tour it was, but it was, you know, like an arena or something, or a stadium or something. It was, you know, a big outdoor venue. Anyway, and you know, I'd be 20,000 people there or something like that. And I'm out there, and you know, you wear your clothes like every day. You know what I mean? And then they go in the back of the truck in a wardrobe case. You never wash them, and they essentially rot. You know, because you're just sweating like crazy, and then they hang them in the truck and drive overnight, and you know, they get destroyed. So it was probably close to the end of the tour, and these one particular really tight pair of pants I was wearing just completely busted at the seams everywhere, just blew out. And of course, I was going commando style. I didn't have any underwear on, so I'm sitting there just kind of swinging in the wind, you know, in front of the whole audience, and I'm like, oh Jesus! And I couldn't stop playing, you know. I mean, you can't stop, you know. So my pants are down around my ankles, and I'm waddling over to my guitar tech, who you can see, and I have a picture of this. It's really funny, and he's looking at me like in horror, like, what do I do? And I'm just yelling at him. I'm going, do something. So he looks around, he grabs a roll of duct tape, and he duct tapes my junk together. And the picture that I have is a picture of him where my back's to the audience at the side of the stage, and my tech is on his knees working furiously at my groin section, doing something. You guess what that is, but you know, last thing you think is he's putting duct tape on his genitals, but that's what he was doing.
Nice.
And of course, you know, when he had to remove him after the show, that was also kind of weird.
Wow, that's awesome.
The way I look at it, I got a free Brazilian wax that day.
Sure. Well, you think maybe you'd want to purposely market some pants that just explode while you're playing? That sounds like.
Well, right after I do the Lynch Passion Powder campaign, we'll do that.
Yeah.
No, but no, what I did right after that is I had everything made with elastic in the seams, so that would never happen.
Sure.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I could market that too.
Yep.
Then I bet Ton would need a pair of those.
Yes, I need some of those right now. I have that explosion problem all the time.
If you're in the studio and your buddy there can fix it, I'm sure he's got a roll of duct tape.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that era, I mean, all of what was going on there was probably our kind of favorite metal era. So we love things like working on the Dream Warriors with Nightmare on Elm Street. Do you have any kind of memories of that? You know, that video with Freddy Krueger? I mean, that was just awesome.
Well, yeah. I mean, they built this elaborate horror set for us for the video, and we're in the trailers. You know, they have production trailers, so we're in the trailers, and we're kind of supposed to be getting ready or whatever we're doing, you know. And Freddy was all in makeup, you know, so he looks in Nightmare on Elm Street, which is kind of bizarre sitting there talking to a guy that looks like that, you know. And he had the gloves with the blades on them, and we were doing coke. So he's using his blade fingers to serve up coke to everybody, chopping it up with the you know, the knife hand thing. It was kind of surreal, yeah. And you know, I mean, hey, that was a long time ago. That's what everybody was doing back in the day. Sorry, but it's a true story. I don't know if I'm going to get Freddy Krueger in trouble over that. But
He probably won't hear this.
No.
Okay.
That's that would be pretty. That would be an odd experience, I would have to say.
And you know, I was so high during the making of that video, I couldn't bust through the wall. Because there's a point in my guitar solo I'm supposed to just come crashing through this wall.
Yeah.
But and that the wall is called a breakaway wall. It's made so that it looks like a real wall, but like, you know, a fly could break through it, you know, an infant could break through it. But I was so high and so weak, I couldn't even break through it. I had to keep resetting up the wall and reshooting it because I couldn't freaking get through it. And I thought, oh, Lynch is buff. He'll get through that thing, no problem.
Wow.
Which is why in the video, if you watch it, I'm laughing because, like, you know, whatever.
Man.
Anyway.
Well, another one of my personal favorites, the Hearing Aid sessions with the song We're Stars. I'm not even kidding you. I got that converted from a VHS onto DVD. I watch it every so often. I think it's awesome. Do you have any kind of memories of that?
Well, you guys are living in the past, aren't you?
Sometimes.
All right. Hearing Aid. Yeah, well, that was a pretty scary gig. I mean, you know, we got the call, and it's like you show up at what was then, was it Atlantic Studios, or no, it was Henson Studios. I forget what it was called back then, A&M Studios. And it showed up, and it's Charlie Chaplin's old movie lot in Hollywood, and it's just a phenomenal facility. And there's every guitar player, you know, known to man at the time, is lined up outside on the side of the building, you know. So there's Yngwie and Neil Schon and this guy and that guy and that guy. And I'm like, wow, holy crap. And we're all waiting for our turn, you know, like casting call, you know, we're getting called in. And the one thing I liked about the video over the record is, in the record, when you listen to all the guitar solos, you cannot they keep switching back and forth between all the guys.
Yeah.
And they all sound the same. And you can't tell who's who. And it's just this cacophony of just, you know, scattered notes and all this Stradivarius crap going on. And it doesn't make any sense. But when you watch the video, they use different takes, and you can actually see who's playing, and it really makes sense. It's actually much more enjoyable. And I think the guy that everybody scared that day was Yngwie, because, you know, Yngwie had just emerged on the scene, and he was a force to be reckoned with, and we were like, holy crap, you know. Nobody. So I thought everybody was trying to do Yngwie. You know? Everybody was trying to play faster than they were supposed to be playing, you know. But yeah, there was a lot of notes in that room that day.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing, and it's I think it's funny because most people, if I ever mention it to someone, it seems like not many people remember it. But just like you say, the video is very impacting, and it was interesting how that solo, what you're talking about, went on for like 6 minutes or something. So I'm sure listening to it is totally painful.
Oh yeah, I cannot stand the way they edited it, but. Quite honestly, maybe they should have put out various versions of it with each individual guitar player doing his thing. For instance, I mean, I played over the track a number of times, you know, the whole song.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that exists somewhere. And from what I've been told is that they're putting that back out. I'm not sure what they're doing to it, but there'll be a new version of it coming out, I think, this year. They're still alive, you know. They've got something to look forward to. So we found out after the fact, and that's why I have these problems with a lot of these charity, quote-unquote, efforts, is none of that money went to help starving Ethiopian babies.
None of it at all, huh?
Maybe $27.
Wow.
Yeah, the other $68,000 went into people's pockets.
Man.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
Down on castles and attorney's fees and producer fees, and silly shit like that. So, sorry, starving Ethiopian babies.
Yeah.
No one will really care about you that much.
Wow. Well, another thing I was interested in is, at what point did you start, I guess, getting sponsored, if that's what they call it, by guitar companies, and then you ended up coming out with, like, the Skull and Bones guitar? How did that all happen?
Yeah, I remember that day very clearly because, you know, all my life I really hadn't had any money to buy instruments or anything, and had all these crazy jobs and stuff. And, you know, I'd be riding around on a bicycle. I mean, I didn't even have a car, you know, and washing dishes or doing construction. I was an aquarium tester. I'd run fast food restaurants, just anything I could do. And at one point when Dokken started to gain some traction, we did our first couple records, I got an endorsement, which I didn't even understand what that meant. But Area, a little Japanese guitar company called Area, wanted to give me 2 guitars. And I was like, wow, you actually give me a guitar. They were terrible guitars. I mean, virtually unplayable, But I told, well, if you could put a skull on it, that'd be cool. And they put a skull on it, and that's the guitar that's on the back cover of the Tooth and Nail album. And I used it for a sum total of one note on that record. Because contractually I had to use it on the record.
Wow.
So, and I think it was Heaven Comes Down. I used it on the Dive Bomb. And then Alone Again, I recorded Alone Again with the acoustic guitar. They gave me an acoustic guitar and electric guitar. So they got something out of it. I got a couple of free guitars, which I wish I would have hung on to. But who knows what happened to those? Probably gave them away or something. But, yeah, it was my first endorsement. The endorsement game is very strange, and I've talked to ESP about this a lot. When you're at the point in your life and your career where you can actually afford to buy your tools, which are your instruments and your amps and things like that, that's when they want to give you everything. You don't really need people to give you stuff. I mean, it's nice, but the people that really need the stuff is guys like me when I was young, the guys that are passionate, but they just don't have the resources, they don't have the means, they're working jobs. And those guys, I think, they would appreciate it more than anybody, if they got sort of the instrument landed in their hands. So I proposed to ESP that we do a campaign where I give away a bunch of my guitars that how many guitars do I need? And give them to people that, would appreciate them and love them and just be blown away, right? But we could never devise a contest that would be fair, how do you determine who's worthy? It's really difficult. We thought about it, and we just couldn't figure it out because we don't want to be giving this away to people that are just making up stories just so they get a free guitar. And we don't have the time to go out and really find these guys, So it's kind of tricky, but I think the concept is valid. I just don't know how to implement it.
Sure. Well, obviously, again, you mentioned the KXM that you're working on now, and, you were with Dokken for so long, and Lynch Mob, obviously, and you went back and forth with the two camps. Do you see yourself maybe going back to one of those sometime in the future, or do you think KXM is where you are now? Well,
I'm in a lot of places right now. Lynch Mob has always remained intact in various forms. We are together now. We have been touring, and it's not the original band, but and we change members quite frequently. But we stay true to the original intent of the band. We're kind of desert blues-based hard rock with a kind of a mystical edge. And when we go out live, we tour quite a bit. When we go out live, we also play a lot of Dokken material. It's probably 2/3 Dokken, 1/3 Lynch Mob, because Dokken was a bigger band, and people want to hear those songs. But we have a live record that we're working on right now that we're going to be coming out with.
Okay.
And we've had a studio record, half of a studio record in the can for about a year and a half, and I just don't know how to finish it. But at some point, it may get finished, I hope. So we're working on that. In fact, I've been talking to some people at labels about that very, very recently, actually, and even this morning. So, it's just one of the things, one of the things that are in the fire. I mean, we'll see what happens. But yeah, Lynch Mob tours. That is my touring band. KXM is looking for a couple of windows this year to be able to go out and tour and record a video, live DVD, so we can capture ourselves live and people can experience it if they can't make it to a show, because we just don't have the time to really tour that much. But I just want to mention I've got a few other projects that I'll just run down real quick, just because I have to. In this couple of months right now, I'm involved in I just finished up doing guitars and writing songs for a project with Michael Sweet from Stryper in Boston. Great singer. It's a great record. It's not coming out until 2015, but all those people like yourselves who really love the 80s stuff, you love this record. It's all the good things about that era, I think, of music, in my opinion. And we have Brian Tichy playing drums on it, James Lomenzo from Megadeth on bass, and it sounds fantastic and really, really great song. So that'll be coming out. I've got another project called The Infidels, which is the rhythm section from War and Sendog from Cypress Hill, and that's sort of a very heavy funk rock, with very Band of Gypsies, and then it's a whole different animal. I'm also doing an industrial project, working with some of the programmers and engineers from Nine Inch Nails and Zombie. That, again, is a completely different animal. but a lot of fun. Just heavy, trippy music. So we got that we're working on as well. And I've got a film called Shadow Nation that I've been working on over 4 years now. It's a documentary that deals with Native Americans and music. Very heavy subject matter, but there's a band within the film called Shadow Train, and we've got a double record that we did as the soundtrack for the film, and that's finished, and that'll come out with the film sometime this year. We're almost done with the film, and so it's Shadow Nation is the film, and Shadow Train is the band. So there's a 2 CD set and the actual documentary film. I know I have some other things I can't think of right now. I have some other projects I got, but I build guitars. I have Mr. Scary Guitars. People can check that out if they're interested at MrScaryGuitars.com. It's MrScaryGuitars.com. And I've got my own line of pickups, Mr. Scary Pickups. So, in my spare time, so I have something to do,
Awesome.
Yeah, if you can find some, it sounds like.
Yeah.
No messing around there.
Geez, I think I'm leaving out a project. Oh, yeah, I know what I'm leaving out. So I did a record with Jeff Tilson and Mick Brown called TNN. And that was basically Dokken without Dawn, and we had guest singers come in like Ripper Owens and Sebastian Bach and Doug Pinnick and this guy and that guy, and it was really a beautiful record. We spent a lot of time on it, and we're gonna start up on that record again in November, and but we're gonna change the name, and we're bringing in Michael Sweet to replace Dawn, and so it's basically gonna be Dokken without Dokken.
Okay.
Wow.
But Michael is such a wonderful guy. So he's just like Don, in his heyday, but really, I think, a really wonderful version of that style of singing. He's very melodic and he's just got a beautiful voice, but he doesn't come with any baggage at all. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a hard worker, just a wonderful, wonderful guy. And so we'll be renaming TNN, but it'll be Dokken without Don, and we'll have Michael Sweet instead. I know it's slightly confusing, but anyways.
Basically, just keep up to date on your website. It sounds like you have at least a half a dozen albums coming out in the near future here.
Yes, I do. But the KXM thing is the one that we're focusing on. We just finished 2 more videos, as I said, and they're hilarious. I mean, well, parts of it are hilarious. We've got a scene that we just shot last week. It was Doug Pinnick as Obama for the song Gunfight. But he's wearing nothing but underwear, but his underwear are American flag print on the underwear, like tighty whities. So he's standing there virtually naked, except for these American flag tighty whities, with an fully auto AR-15, smoking a joint for the green screen.
Jeez.
And then there's another scene we're in the Oval Office, and then Ray and I are his Secret Service agents, and it was a lot of fun to make. Let me put it this way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, George, it's been an honor having you on today. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, don't steal our music, damn it.
Yeah, damn it.
Buy the damn CD or the iTunes, and don't do Spotify or Pandora. Artists don't get paid for that.
All right.
If you love your artist and their music does something for you and you appreciate it, spend the 99 cents or the $10 or whatever it is, because we work really, really, really hard at this stuff, and you can't steal anything else in this world, and get away with it. But somehow music, it's okay. And you can't go into this supermarket and steal food, or go steal a car off the lot. So I mean, it's the same thing. When people come to me with this kind of question about, well, what do you think about file sharing? I'm like, what do you mean? What do I think about stealing? Why is it legal? How is that even possible? How can there even be an argument for it? I don't understand that. I mean, if I decide I want to give something away, or you want to give something away, that's fine. You want to give me your lawnmower, give me your lawnmower. But I'm not asking anybody to steal our music. And so, the cold, sad reality of it is that we work really hard at what we do, and we create things of value for people. And we've seen record sales drop off 90%. And it's not that people aren't getting the music; it's just that they're just not paying for it. And maybe one person will think, oh, well, what's the difference? These guys are big rich rock stars. No, we're not big rich rock stars. We're working musicians with large families. I've got 6 kids, 4 grandkids, and I work hard 7 days a week at what I do, and because I love it. but at the same time, we got to eat and we got to pay the bills. Doug Pinnick is a wonderful example of what I'm talking about. He's for musicians in the know, he's our hero. This guy should be at the top, but instead he's living in a trailer under the bridge with nothing. And that's one of the reasons we did KXM, is we wanted something to float Doug. Renee and I are okay, but it's a travesty that this guy has put out the body of work he's put out, and is so unbelievably talented, and taken all those gospel roots and his blues roots and done them in a rock context that is just unbelievable. And he has this whole beautiful body of work, and yet remains unrecognized and unpaid. And we, if for nothing else, we want KXM to succeed for him. So I just encourage people to, everybody's got $10. Buy record, whether it's our music or anybody else's music. And streaming is a bad model, because streaming, they've managed to find a way, these companies, are getting the music for free, essentially. I got a check last month for, the 175 songs I have streaming. I think it was 34 cents.
Wow.
What do I do with that?
Yeah.
That's 40 years of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Amen. We will spread the word.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys having us on and pushing KXM, and hopefully we'll talk again when one of my other 9 projects comes out.
All right, sounds good.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. I got another one beeping in here.
All right, thanks, George.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.